Okay, well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, or good morning if you happen to be in Colorado, which is where my guest today is. And I'm pleased and delighted to say it's Lisa Langer, who is the Director of Tourism Promotion from Visit Glenwood Springs in Colorado. Good morning, Lisa.
Well, thank you very much, and good evening to you and your listeners.
Excellent. Lisa, tell me a little bit about Glenwood Springs. I'm assuming that it does what it says on the can. You know, it's Glenwood, it's wooded, it's in a glen, and you have some springs.
As a matter of fact, we have springs, hot springs, and we have two rivers that run through our community. So it's in a deep valley on the western slope of the Rocky Mountains. It's a beautiful, beautiful community. Only 10,000 people or fewer within the city limits, but we get a great number of visitors for our wellness destination and our water, whether it is rafting or kayaking on the Colorado or Roaring Fork rivers, or whether it is soaking in three of our wonderful hot springs attractions.
So just so I can get a little clearer in my brain, the major gateway, obviously, for Colorado is Denver. Where are you situated in relation to Denver, and how far, in terms of time, would it take me to get from there to Glenwood Springs?
If you fly into the Denver International Airport, it takes about 3 hours to drive west on Interstate 70, and we are right on Interstate 70. So we are about an hour west of Vail, Colorado, a famous ski resort, and we're about 45 minutes north of Aspen, another famous ski resort. So we're situated in a beautiful location right between two very well-known resorts.
Excellent. Well, I'm sure all of our listeners will know Vail and will know Aspen, and now they will know Glenwood Springs.
Absolutely.
Apart from the water, the restorative nature of the hot springs and the rafting, I think the big news, as far as I'm aware, is that you also have a railway that goes through Glenwood Springs, and this year you're going to have a famous visitor.
Yes, absolutely. We have had Amtrak service with the California Zephyr route for a number of years that stops in Glenwood Springs both directions. And now, as of the end of this summer, so it'll be mid-August, we will have the Rocky Mountaineer luxury train route. So we're very, very excited. It's the Rockies to the Red Rocks route, and it's going to be a fabulous, fabulous offering for customers who want to enjoy a beautiful train ride with great amenities and see some incredible scenery.
So what is this? Is this like a day trip thing, or do you get off? Where does it start? Where does it end? What would be a typical itinerary?
So that it's a 2-day route from whichever end point or beginning point you start. So it's either starts in Denver, Colorado, or Moab, Utah. So if you're flying from the west, say for instance, your folks are flying in from either LA or Nevada or Salt Lake, so they could be coming in from Las Vegas or what have you, they could either drive down to Moab, Utah, or they could then fly into Denver and start on that end. It's a 2-day train route with an overnight in Glenwood Springs. So whether you start in Denver and go to Moab, or whether you start in Moab and go to Denver, it's 2 days with a Glenwood Springs overnight.
So you're getting all the overnight visitors, and presumably this is not a sleeper train. They're going to get off of it and stay in one of your accommodation providers, yes?
Yes, that is right. We have 3 providers right now who are signed up with Rocky Mountaineer to be the host hotels for this group. And the cars that they're using are the Silver Line. So if you go to rockymountaineer.com, you'll see the different kinds of cars they use. The Silver Line has absolutely no sleeper cars. It's observatory cars. So they are glass domed cars. And it will be a beautiful trip. They offer the breakfast and lunch options. And then when they get to Glenwood Springs, they'll be doing dinner in our community.
Very, very good. Well, Rocky Mountaineer obviously has a brand image of being something quite luxurious and almost like a once in a lifetime experience. When they get to Glenwood Springs, how much time do they get there? Late at night, or do they get there late afternoon? What, early evening?
If they're coming from Denver, so if they're coming west from Denver, they'll get to Glenwood Springs about 5 p.m. So they'll take a very luxurious 8-hour train trip through the Rocky Mountains, through parts of the Rocky Mountains that you can't get to by car. So it's a very beautiful route. They'll hear stories about the Rocky Mountains, about the headwaters of the Colorado, all of these beautiful stories along the way about the rich history and the topography and the geology of the area. So it'll be really an interesting trip. They get to Glenwood Springs about 5 p.m. from the west, and coming from Moab, they get to Glenwood Springs about 7 p.m. So they'll only be in there overnight. They'll leave again in the morning to continue their route. But there are options, as I understand, through another tour operator who's working with Rocky Mountaineer for extended or post-pre trips. They won't be able to extend the 2-day trip, but they can, add on to one end or the other of their trip and come back to Glenwood Springs and enjoy more of what we have to offer.
So if I say I was coming from Denver, I arrive at 5 o'clock, I get off, I take my bag. What do I do from there? Do I walk to my hotel, check in, and then go and visit your bars, or are there other things to do? Obviously, as you mentioned earlier, you have these hot springs. At what stage of the evening do you do that, or day?
Well, you can do the hot springs at any time during the day, but I prefer personally the evening after dinner, because it's a very relaxing event. You go and you soak in these beautiful mineral rich springs. They're very warm, and then you just lull into a wonderful sleep in the evening. What they'll do is they'll get off at a historic train depot that we have right in the main core of downtown along the Colorado River. They will either walk right across the street to the Hotel Denver, or they'll walk down a very short, even a half block maybe, to an elevator where they can get their luggage right on the elevator. It'll take them up to a beautiful pedestrian bridge. That is a very short walk over the Colorado River. It takes them over the railroad, the Colorado River, and they'll have a beautiful view of our historic Glenwood Hot Springs pool, which is much larger than your typical football pitch. It is a beautiful, beautiful site with a lovely fountain that changes colors, and you can see the whole pool. And then they'll go over to either the Hotel Colorado, which is also a historic hotel. It's been around for over 130 years. Or the next to it is the Glenwood Hot Springs Lodge, which is also affiliated with the Hot Springs Pool. So lots of restaurants in the area. Many within that downtown core as they get off the train. There are more than 12 restaurants that are right there. They have Indian food, Mexican, hamburgers, barbecue, steak and seafood, you name it. It's right in that area, Asian food. We've got a couple of great breweries right there. So lots of things to do. Historic bar named after Doc Holliday, the famous dentist turned gunfighter who helped the Earp brothers in the OK Corral shootout. He died actually in our community. So there are, that's a claim to fame, believe it or not. He came to Glenwood Springs because he heard about the healing nature of the hot springs. And unfortunately, his tuberculosis was way far advanced and he wasn't able to be helped. He is buried in Glenwood Springs, and there's a very nice little hike within several blocks of the downtown, an easy walk. There are lots of great shopping experiences in the downtown area, boutique shops of all kinds.
When the train comes to town, do the people take over the town? I mean, is that, how many people are going to get off the train? How many bed space? Did they take all your beds?
No, actually, we have 1,700 beds in our community, about 30 hotel properties. And that doesn't even include your Airbnb and VRBO type properties. But they'll take up about 75 rooms per night, 4 nights a week. So there'll be about 150 people. They consider most of their clientele will be older couples. And so it will be very nice for the rest of the hotels that aren't right there within that very close proximity to be able to fill up with the excess then from people who can't get a room at those 3 hotels. So we're hoping it'll be great for the community.
And is this going to be a 52-week-a-year affair, or is it seasonal?
This will be seasonal. To start, they're going to start mid-August and run through October. And there is talk that they may extend that initial season a little longer. They are filling up very well for the first season, for the 2021 season. And that's just the introductory year. So then going forward, their season will be mid-May through mid-October. So it's going to be 5-6 months of visitation, 4 nights a week. It's going to not be on the weekends. We tend to fill up in Glenwood Springs with the Front Range, which is Denver, Colorado Springs, Fort Collins. A lot of people come up to the mountains to enjoy our hot springs and our Glenwood Caverns Adventure Park and all the outdoor activities that are available in our community. So they're going to be here on Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday evenings.
Excellent. Well, it sounds absolutely fantastic. I mean, I hope I get a chance to experience it at some point in the future. As I mentioned before we started recording, I have whizzed through Glenwood Springs on the motorway on I-70, but I never had a chance to stop and take it all in. So hopefully next time, and I'm sure I reflect the opinion of most people who be watching this, that a trip on the Rocky Mountaineers, an overnight stay in Glenwood Springs sounds just a job. So thank you for your time, Lisa. I do appreciate it, and I wish you the very best of luck in the forthcoming year. No problem at all.
Bye-bye.
See you later. Bye.